2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow?
No, one show only tonight,
okay.
And
one show
I said that panic-stricken. No! Yeah, great.
Don't misinform the public.
Norm Macdonald, there's one show. Oh my God, tonight at 7 o'clock, at the comedy clubs always have real good names there, that place tonight, Zanies. That they tell you in the title of the place, in the sign outside, hey, this place, you ought to come in here. It's zany. In Knoxville, there's a place, Side Splitters. I think they mean that figuratively, You don't have to literally split your side at a comedy club. That'd be good. But tonight, Zany's one show, and then tomorrow night, there's one show there too at 7 o'clock.
You can see Norm all over town on billboards now for Safe Auto Glass.
Oh my God, what the H?
You need me.
You need Safe Auto Glass. Yeah, we try. The grand irony is that I don't drive. Norm doesn't drive. He has an assistant drive him around.
One of the all-time funny Jay Mohr stories. And when you're done talking about the story, I want to talk about your great podcast, Jay Mohr Stories, because you tell some great stories, and get a great plug-in for that. Your story, I believe you were in the town of Boston, and you were hanging out with Tracy Morgan. You do an absolutely fantastic Tracy Morgan impression, and it's him getting essentially thrown out of a strip club, actually, eventually, or later. It's not so much maybe such a strip club, but a club where just every high-dollar crystal is being ordered and everything like crazy, and then the bill comes.
I have a better new one.
Okay, all right.
This really happened.
Okay.
Tracy Morgan was at the Melrose Improv in Los Angeles. And when I walk into the Improv, Tracy Morgan's in the lobby with his shirt off, which is not an uncommon sight, by the way.
Right.
It's hard to get him to keep his shirt on.
Yeah.
His shirt is off, and he's fist-fighting the audience as they leave the showroom. But what I didn't realize at the time was he was the comic that was just in the showroom. So you go, hey guys, thanks a lot, good night, God bless you. Then you go in the lobby, wait for them, and then throw punches at them as they come out. And I walk in, Tracy's in the lobby, throwing punches, going, and he's screaming at people as he's shoving them, going, I miss my daughter! I like my daughter, she's a big girl with a doo-doo pamper. I miss my daughter! And he's punching people in the face and shoving women out of the way to get to their husbands, going, I miss my daughter. He doesn't have a daughter. He has 3 sons, and one of them's older than him. That's some other level ghetto business. When you have a child older than you, you're like Antonio Cromartie at that point. So I go to help him because I'm drunk at the time. So why not get into a fight? Sure. That makes sense at the time. And I run across the room. He just sees a white guy streaking towards him, and he thinks one of the audience members are taking his flank. He turns to hit me, and his fist gets about a foot from my face, and he hits the brakes and goes, oh, I'm not going to mess with you too bad, Jay Mohr. You legendary. You choked out the big man on the 17th floor. You got everybody pregnant. Jay Mohr is my uncle. Richard Pryor with them gold shoes on. Leg kick! And then he screamed leg kick and executed a leg kick! And he leg kicked the guy next to him. That was his way of going, whoo, I almost hit you. I'm not going to F with you too bad, Jay Mohr. You legendary.
Smoke sherm.
You choked out the big man on the set. But I actually knew what he was saying. I got in a wrestling match with Chris Farley, and I put him in a chokehold.
Okay.
But that was... Farley and I wrestled in the graphics room on the 17th floor at Saturday Night Live, and with David Spade and Fred Wolf, incredible writer, Fred Wolf.
Very funny.
Any sketch where Farley's yelling, what in the name of all things holy? Oh my God! That's a Fred Wolf sketch.
Okay.
So Farley, I shot in on his legs, and he just collapsed like a building on me. Like when they take down a stadium and you watch it implode. It was just one of those.
Yeah.
And then he sat on my back and jumped up and down. He was 3+. And I'm like, you're actually going to kill me. And put me in a wheelchair. Then he kept stop. And he wouldn't stop. He's just laughing, clapping his hands. And then finally, Spade was like an older brother to him, goes, get off him, Farley. Jesus. And then Farley was embarrassed and got off. And then Chris goes into the writer's room. Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger were the hosts together. They're married. And he's sitting on a couch. And I'm about to leave because this is not working out for me, this job. But I see him on the couch, and I'm like, no, I'm not done with this, man. And I go, hey, man, you still want to wrestle? And he goes to get up off the couch. And when he does, sideways, I put my arm around his head, and I kind of like drive into him with my forehead into his temple, and I get him in a cradle. As I lock hands in a cradle, if you know anything about wrestling out
This
there.
is 100% seriousness.
It's in my book, Gasping for Airtime, and I do a perfect job explaining the exact placement of fingers and where they are. So I actually get my hands locked, better, like wrists, like this, locked around his head and from under his left leg. But I catch him as he's trying to get up off this low couch, so he's completely off balance. So I just keep going forward. He falls over, and we roll perfectly into him in a pinned position. I take my right knee, which is on the bottom, out from under him, and I push it into his rib. This is what you do. You try to choke the guy out, really. And you put your forehead into the guy's temple, and you squeeze like an anaconda, and the guy will eventually pin himself because they can't breathe because there's a knee cracking their ribs, and they're going unconscious because you're foreheading as hard as you, like everything you have through to the other temple. And then I realized, as soon as I let him go, he's going to punch the crap out of me.
Right.
Because he was an athlete. He was a great football player, right? I let him go, and I slap him on the rear end, and I start jogging towards the elevator. Because I got to hit the elevator button before he gets up in time to kill me. I'm waiting at the elevator, and I hear, it must be what the running of the bulls sounds like in Spain. Because it's Farley and everyone, the entire writing staff, and Fred Wolf, and David Spade, and Alec Baldwin, and Kim Basinger, they all want to come see a carnage. And I mean, it's like in the movies, hitting the elevator button in a horror movie. Farley has his hands out like a mummy. Like, he's even playing for laughs then. Yeah. And he's going, walking towards me. The elevator door is open. There are people in tuxedos that are coming down from the Rainbow Room, the super fancy restaurant in 30 Rock. I get in the elevator. He comes, I'm bleeding. I don't know how. I have a bloody nose and I've chipped a tooth. I'm bleeding like a fighter. Farley takes a step into the elevator to kill me. And I say, "Oh my God, that's Chris Farley!" And the elevator erupts. They go, "Oh!" And then Chris just goes, "Oh!" And turns his mommy around and goes in the other direction. He realized he couldn't murder